a threat to local grids. Every year, thousands of families lose their power from weather-related outages. Number 5, a solar power generator provides powerful backup insurance and peace of mind. Folks, I really believe in the solar power generators offered by Solutions from Science, one of my oldest sponsors. You can get more information at www.mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Remember, the government doesn't own the sun, so go to mysolarbackup.com or call 1-877-327-0365. Hi, folks. This is Alex Jones. I'm looking for people that have the wisdom to spot savings, opportunity, and recognize risk. Saving means to make money. The Cal Ben Pure Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated and twice as good as what you're using now. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils that contain no useless dyes, perfumes, deodorants, or antibacterials. Your risk is the hundreds of hazardous toxic detergents that give you rashes, itching sores, and deteriorating clothing called lint. If you want something better, if you want something you've never had before, you have to do something you've never done before. Getting a free catalog is easy by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com. Take charge of your health now by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
All right, Dan Cofall is our guest, and yes, I know that we have loaded phone lines, and I'm going to go to your calls here in just a few minutes, and then we're going to continue with calls throughout this hour to the end of the transmission today. Then I'll be back this evening, 7 o'clock for InfoWars Nightly News. Find out more at InfoWarsNews.com. And again, I want to thank you, the listeners that have supported us over the years with the money bombs and buying the books, the videos, the tapes. We're not the government that comes and forces you to give money and then they use it against you. We're saying if you believe in alternative media, becoming the mainstream media, if you believe in taking this country back, please support us by spreading the word, by supporting our sponsors, and that means our local sponsors, local AM and FM sponsors as well, the local stations you hear us on. Now, I've just been on Dan's show a few times, and I've talked to folks in Dallas that listen to him. I got friends and family that, I heard you on the Wall Street Shuffle show. So it's popular up there. It's on, quote, CNN radio. It's called that because that's their news. It's the big news talk up there in Dallas. We're on a few great affiliates as well in the DFW area. Wonderful folks here. But Dan, I wanted to get him on, but then I noticed in the bio, I was like, he's a member of the Committee on Foreign Relations, which is sub-regional groups. It's like, he's a member of the Dallas Council on Foreign Relations or Chicago or New York. So as things get more and more complex, they go out and find movers and shakers that they want to see if they can basically get into their group. And a lot of people say it's keep your friends close, enemies closer is the argument, because there's certainly people in the lower CFR who are not globalist. That's why I've said, you don't know that Angelina Jolie is a bad person or a good person. We've got to wait and see. She may be horrible. She may be great. The point is, this is how the globalists try to get you in with powerful people. So if you play ball, you move up. Now, Dan, your partner at your intelligence company, tell folks about yourself a little bit, because I think that explains the whole CFR thing, and it's an interesting perspective. Then we'll get into what hyperinflation looks like, the crisis in Europe expanding, and then we'll get to some phone calls.
Well, I've been in finance and my whole life, and chief financial officer of a number of public companies. I taught finance at graduate school here in Dallas for a number of years. So I've been in the financial area forever and ever, and started doing a radio show about 5 years ago up here in Dallas, and it's always a pleasure. Our ratings go through the roof when you come on. So if you want to come on 5 days a week with us, you are always welcome.
I wish I could.
But we have a chance to do a lot of really great things. I belong to the Ludwig von Mises Institute, Ben's business executive for national security, and I get invited to a lot of different organizations. I'm also on the Texas Israeli Homeland Security. I'm co-chairman of the Homeland Security Committee for that. But the council or the Committee on Foreign Relations was an invitation from some friends of mine who are as conservative as I am, and they said you might enjoy the perspective of what goes on there. And the truth of the matter is, it's so liberal, and the people that are involved are so liberal that it is fun to go. But it's hard for me to to work up any level of excitement for it, because I just sit there and say, no, that's wrong, no, that's wrong, no, that's wrong. But it is interesting to see how they think, and the speakers they have in are, they had Rubin in a few months ago, and wow, I had so many questions I wanted to ask because he was so off base, the former Goldman guy, and Rubin, where the heck, you know him from the Clinton cabinet too.
Robert Rubin.
Yeah, Robert Rubin. And it was just an hour worth of politics, of indoctrination.
So basically, at the lower and mid-level, that's what I've always heard, it's the globalists lecturing you.
Yes, that's correct.
So you basically join it, and then you sit there and are lectured about the New World Order and how great it is.
Yeah, and I have to admit, when Rubin didn't talk so much about the New World Order, but his commentary about the financial system, it was clear that was the direction it was headed. And I have to admit that if I want to go out and if I want to watch MSNBC and I want to listen to the DCFR, it's an interesting perspective, but certainly it's more humor than it is, learning anything.
Yeah, well, I think the issue is 20 years ago, if you talked about it, they said you were crazy, it didn't exist.
Yes.
Now, because of the internet in the last 16 years or so being so popular, they've pretty much, to see a CFR meeting, like you said, is to watch CNN or MSNBC.
Yeah, it is. And, it's not all a bunch of lunatics. It's really a bunch of people that sit there, and I'm convinced, when there were 2,000 or 3,000 people there at the Rubin dinner, and I'm convinced people show up because they are expected to show up. They show up in a nice gown and jewelry, and it's a social event. They don't really know what he's saying or why he's saying it. They're just supposed to be there.
Well, I talked to a guy whose grandfather owns one of the big funeral homes in Texas, and he was telling me the story of his grandpa got mad. He got invited to the Federal Reserve to quote inside, economist information. And they told him, yes, the economy's going to collapse. This is about a year ago. Here's how you make money on it. So basically, it is getting the local wealth involved. The elite is smart. They know to go try to organize. I mean, I've been approached years ago about, joining elitist organizations because they want anybody who's a mover and shaker, even regionally, they want you part of their club where they can watch you and influence you.
Absolutely right, Alex. And you'd be a perfect candidate for these things because they'd love to keep an eye on you.
Just amazing. You talk to a lot of movers and shakers in finance. I mean, from what I get and from talking to a lot of people off record, the elite's known for 3-4 years. Total collapse. They're digging in. Like you said, hyperinflation followed by bedlam. The military's been getting ready for a decade. Now they admit they're getting ready for it.
Yes, they do. And Alex, if I could digress for just 1 second, there's something really important that I think Americans need to really pay attention to. And it's this super committee, the idea of trying to take $1.2 trillion out of the federal spending over the next 10 years. Here's the travesty of this whole thing. Folks know that we're not going to be able to cut the budget because the minute you cut the budget, you're cutting entitlements. You're going to send people right out into the streets rioting as well if you cut their benefits. Here's the travesty of this whole thing. If they don't cut this $1.2 trillion out over the next 10 years, automatic cuts kick in. The automatic cuts are going to devastate the military. And this is our simple little shtick on our show. What we say is the only thing that makes a strong dollar are those 11 aircraft carriers, those 13 boomers, the nuclear submarines, the 2,500 warheads, the 2 million men that we have out and women in the armed forces every day. Those would keep your country strong and your dollar strong. Take away that military. Take away the military's ability to strike first and to strike fear into the heart of everybody around the world. And I want to carry the biggest stick around the world. We spent years, decades, centuries building that big stick. I don't want to give it away now. Without that big stick, our dollar, we are nothing more than a third world nation in Zimbabwe with $15 trillion worth of debt and a printing press running 24 hours a day. The very thought that we would cut our military in a world where most everybody in that world wants us to go away is a travesty. And I don't think enough people relate the strength of our military to the strength of our dollar.
Let me be honest with you, Dan. This may be the one area that we disagree on. And let me be clear.
Sure.
Intellectually, scientifically, geopolitically, what you're saying is absolutely true. But look at how we've been maneuvered to this place. Look at how once they've got a giant 50 million or more people totally dependent on government, that's now a weapon that can be used by the governing class, the political class, to hold us hostage. So you're right, as Bob Chapman has said here, and as Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, you cut the government spending, we go into cardiac arrest. You increase it, we go into hyperinflation.
Yep.
So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I get all that, and I understand. The only reason the dollar's still there, And the only reason we're not in total bedlam right now is because the giant, strong military that strikes fear. But here's the problem. The very elites that run our military and run our country are busy eroding what's left of our country and positioning us where all we have left is the military. So we're even more apt to follow these mega corporations' moves when they direct us in to take over areas in the name of propping our country up. And you know, that's kind of like being a Roman soldier. Well, Rome's horrible, but it's better than the next best thing, you know. So I understand all of this. Look, it'd be one thing if it was like 200 years ago where if you served the British Empire, it was a rough job, but you actually got to keep some of the booty. Okay, and I still would morally not be for that. This is a deal where we do all of this, and then we get to be in Nazi Germany on top of it. So it's pretty much like Nazi Germany. Then it's going to have to fall, and it's going to be ugly when it falls. But this empire is not my empire. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, Alex, I think you and I are in violent agreement, not disagreement on this one. I don't want our military fighting wars for corporations. I don't want the military fighting absurd wars that they're fighting right now. That's not what I'm looking for. But I don't want people to assume that you get rid of the military, you can cut their budget by half, and then it's like owning the biggest mansion on the block and leaving your doors open at night and saying, "Don't worry about it. Come on in and take what you want." What my concern is, we have a military that's not being used properly right now. But the answer isn't to shrink the military. The answer is to put the right leadership in place that uses the military correctly and to get corporate influence out of the military. I agree with. I don't think you and I are in disagreement at all.
Well, here's an example. We shouldn't have FEMA in control fighting fires. The state should be in control and have our National Guard here at home, and they can go fight fires. They're the experts.
Brother, my biggest concern in this whole country is FEMA. Maybe I'm old-fashioned on that, but FEMA and TSA are my two greatest concerns in this country as far as the sliding into 1984. FEMA is a terrifying organization to me.
Have you heard they're ordering people off their land that have been there 50 years all over the country that are by lakes?
Yes, I have, and it's a shame. And 35 years ago when FEMA was just starting out, it was one of the things, they're going to come in, they're going to save us from floods and from nuclear disaster. They're never designed for that. That's not their charter. Their charter is to take over in the event of a national emergency. And that, once they take over, how do you get FEMA out? That's my big concern.
Well, I mean, the feds are running everything already. The police are... Look, when we come back, we're going to go to calls. But I have a whole stack of articles here dealing with this. Concern over public anxiety causes feds to shorten the EAS alert. They were going to take over for 5 to 10 minutes. Now they're shortening the automatic takeover coming up on Wednesday to just 30 seconds. We got that report after we take some calls. We've also got former Mossad chief Halevi says Iran attack will impact region for 100 years. We've got that moving towards green line. I want to get your take on what an attackle means. So let's take some calls, but work those questions in. And I promise, callers, I want to hear from you. We're going right to you after this break. Janice, and then we're going to talk to Tim, Otter. No, Otter's up next. So we're going to go to Janice, Otter, Tim, and others straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.tv. Don't forget the network website. A lot of great stories, incredible radio shows, you name it. GCNlive.com.
Newcomer from Midas Resources, November 7th, 2011. Gold opened this morning at $1778.50. A 1-ounce gold coin can be purchased for $1822.23, $911.12 for a half ounce, or $455.56 for a quarter ounce. That's $1822.23, $911.12, and $455.56.
Gold isn't for you? Hi, I'm Ted Anderson, and I get it. You wouldn't buy gold if you believed the government is doing a great job. The Fed will stop handing out trillions like bailout candy, but that's not what's happening. If all looks rosy, then now is not the time to buy gold. For the realists, there have never been more sobering reasons to diversify. Since 2001, the U.S. dollar index has tanked while gold has risen 1,600%. Savvy investors are adding gold to their portfolios. Find out what they know. Call us and I'll send you 10 reasons why gold will do very well. Free. Call 800-686-2237. Call 800